There it is.
There we go.
Oh, hey, that might have just fixed mine. Maybe I've got a new circle that just popped up. Maybe not.
Yeah, there we
This
go.
looks the
Looks
same.
like it's working.
Okay, you can see me.
Uh, nope. I just got your. I think it's because your signal.
Yeah,
So
it'll come back soon.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So sales, it does start over every month. It's also highly competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Like the military, it's competitive, but once it comes up to promote, when you have to get your points and you have to make sure that you're in that promotion ring and you're really not competing with anybody else, just yourself.
Yeah.
And
And yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's the interesting thing about sales is you can compete with other people like on your team or your department, but at the end of the month, really, you're only competing with yourself. It's
right,
you're doing your best to hit your goal and beat the target that you had the month prior, but um so I mean it's a good thing because at least these people that in your typical ramp period for a sales job is normally
right,
between 90 to 120 days. So these guys are getting 150 days worth of internship, which they're still in the military, so they're getting paid. So that stress of paying bills while you're going through an internship goes away. So you're kind
right,
of killing like 3 or 4 birds with one stone, which hopefully will mitigate a lot of the issues that our brothers and sisters face when they get out of the military.
right.
So like so you've been out 6 years, you said.
Yes.
So like what was one of the biggest hurdles that you had when you first got out,
Uh,
or if
you
there were
know,
multiple, I mean, you know.
well, a lot of mine was just emotional.
Hmm.
It was so I had gotten pregnant in 2011 and had her in 12, and I was told in 2012, the summer before I was going to have her, that I couldn't re-enlist because her dad had left. He was no longer around. He was still there, but he wasn't on the birth certificate. There was no way of proving that he was still a part of our lives, so the military wouldn't accept it.
Oh.
Um, so I got upset because I loved the military. And it wasn't the first time that I had been let down. I I had asked to go on every deployment that had come up, and I got on deployment orders one time, and then they got pulled out from underneath me the weekend before we were supposed to go. Um, and then there was another one that I got on deployment orders, went to headquarters battalion, and they kept me stateside. And then the last one, they got me on deployment orders, found out I was a girl, because it's a frontline unit, found out I was a girl, and the the XO called and was like, "Well, you can get off the orders, or you can come and stay stateside in California." And I was so pissed off. I was like, "My whole point of joining this was to help you guys out. I'm not gonna go to California."
Right.
So I canceled those ones, and it's just been like they just kept letting me down as far as that goes. And then I got told I couldn't re-enlist.
uh
So mine was very emotional. It was trying to get over the fact that I thought I was Billy Badass and I was let down. So I went to the Air Force, and they wouldn't, even though they have some units that are strictly non deployment units, they wouldn't take me. The only one that would is the National Guard. And we all
yeah.
know how we feel about the National Guard.
Yeah. God.
No, I love those guys. And I had a kid that I had to figure out. So at that point, 8 years later, it wasn't really the time for me to sign up for every deployment until I had figured it out.
Yeah. So so and how old was your kiddo when you got out?
I was not in the right emotional crap. They don't tell you how to deal with your emotions. They don't tell you how to deal with the
Hmm.
severity and the rawness that they put you through and just how pure you feel those emotions. They don't
Yeah.
teach you coping mechanisms. You have to learn those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
mine,
that's
I had always had 3 jobs at a time, so it wasn't, the job thing wasn't so hard, but learning how to navigate people
yeah.
was.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean that's kind of one of the reasons why I decided to get out was you know the Navy that I served in certainly wasn't the same Navy that my dad told me about. It wasn't the same Navy that my
Right,
grandpa told me about. Um, you know, I mean, every branch is going to have their ass kissers, and every branch is going to have their dirt bags, and but probably 85% of everyone in between just wants to show up, put in work, serve their country, clock out, and go home. And and it but because the ass kissers get the 4.0 evals and promote, but yet they don't know anything about their job, and the dirtbags take up all
right,
of the bandwidth of the leaders because they're busy putting out fires. Those soldiers and sailors that just with a little bit of encouragement and training could be lifelong service members, but they choose to get out. And it's like, I mean, it breaks my heart to see so many people getting out, and at the same time, like you said, not knowing how to cope with our emotions. It's like, I was in between Hawaii and San Diego when 9/11 happened, and trying, talking,
okay,
like last week we talked about people that come to the US having to assimilate, and the same
mm-hmm.
thing has to happen for us. When we get out, we have to assimilate back into a civilian workforce that's not used to, one, the way we talk, um
Right,
where when the shit's hitting the fan, we don't have time to worry about your feelings. We have time to focus on what needs to be done to survive until tomorrow. And so when we are brutally honest and blunt and direct, it may be 100% truthful what we're saying, but people receive it so horribly because we're just totally direct. And it's like, look, we don't have time for emotions. We got shit to do. And it's hard for, I think, a lot of civilians to understand how we operate. And then let me ask you this: how much does it aggravate you when someone is 1 minute late to a meeting or an appointment or something that you're doing for work? I mean, are you grinding your teeth? Are you climbing up walls with irritation when that happens?
I used to. So, but my mom is late to everything. So eventually, I just at 5 minutes. At 5 minutes, that's when I'm calling, going, "Hey, where are you? What's going on? Are you on your way?" And at 15 minutes, that's when I'm like, "Okay, you know what? This is a waste of my time. I shouldn't be here. This is like, what are we doing? This is
Yeah.
completely unprofessional." So I've gotten really relaxed on that. And my mom has had a lot to do with that, but it's still like once you're gone, it's like, okay, I
But when you first,
waited,
how long
the 5 minutes because you said you were going to be there, and it's fine, whatever. I don't.
how long did it take?
It took me until I was in real estate to be okay with that, and I just got into real estate a year ago.
Yeah, yeah, because that's a whole different industry right there. So,
Mm-hmm.
so and I think that's because you think back to when you were active duty, and what's the age old saying: if you're on time, you're late, and if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. And what happened to the people
Right.
that were late for formation? It was, it they would be treated like private pile. Everyone else would be punished for that
Right.
one person being late. And so,
Yep.
as a unit or a division, you would then be incentivized to make sure that this one dingling that can't, get their shit together is on time for whatever they got to do. And
Right.
but in the civilian world, you can't go up to someone and be like, "Look, I'm either going to push you to the finish line or I'm going to drag you to the finish line. I don't really care which. It's just a matter of whether I've got you by the neck of your shirt or by your ankles. Or if I
Right.
have to, I will throw you over my shoulder and I will drop you like a sack of potatoes at the finish line."
Right.
We can't talk to people like that in the civilian world because again, feelings and people get all bent out of shape. So,
They do.
I think that was, talking about assimilation. Um, I mean, one thing I think that if the military was smart about is for those, let's say at the 6 month mark before they're about to ETS, 6 months away from being discharged from the military, let's say they've just been an average sailor. They're just a 3-0, they've promoted when they were supposed to promote, and, you know, they just kind of went through and did the motions. If they aren't going to get out at the 6 month mark, we need to have them speak into a counselor. We need to
Right.
have them, because at that point, if they're going to be out in 6 months, they aren't going to be sent on a deployment, most likely. They're, going to be sent to the
Right.
rear. They're going to, be helping out with administrative stuff for the most part. Um, so why not start prepping that person for civilian life instead of right now where it's literally, okay, you have to take a week long course and you have to do it within the 90-day window of you getting out of the military. And once you do that, you pretty much just sit back and you're on the road program. I mean,
Right. Well, and those classes they're crap classes anyway too.
oh
So
God,
it's
yes,
you
were
have
they?
this
Yeah.
week long course that you have to take in 90 days, and they don't teach you anything
Mm-mm.
at all. Like that class is supposed to teach you how to use your skills in the military to form an actual no shit, this is what I can do resume, and they don't
Yeah.
teach you that. They just say if you're
Yeah.
admin, put admin, and this kind of little things. But then I found out later on, so I did admin. I went in open contract and got admin. And I found out later on I could do admin, I could do accounting, I could do HR, but they don't tell you these things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's those
the
classes are
killer thing. Yeah. And and I mean, like, for me, truly, there's it's funny because my job description in the Navy doesn't, like, you got to be a little bit creative in order to translate what I did over to the civilian world, because saying that I
right,
drove the ship, unless I'm going to work on a cruise ship, doesn't really translate
right,
well. Telling people that I was, qualified as a 50 cal gunner. I mean, I can't go into a civilian interview and say, yeah, I could, from the minute that they called away a quick draw on the ship, I could be 300 feet away from my position, and within 4 minutes, I could get my gun out of the gun locker, check the headspace and timing, have rounds chambered, and putting rounds down range within 4 minutes. I mean, if I went into a job interview and told them, "Hey, I'm ready," within 4 months, I can have this gun ready to end lives.
right,
That's gonna freak out pretty much every single person that I interview
right.
with.
They're not going to understand at all.
Yeah, but then you could, let's say, so that taking that analogy, let's say I wanted to go work in an automotive industry. I could say that within a timely manner and within, I mean, headspace and timing is, what we're talking about, tenths of millimeters of accuracy. you know I
Right,
can then say, I can do something in a timely manner, and within, 1/10 of a millimeter accuracy, for the equipment that I'm working on, I can have it efficiently ready to operate within, whatever time is given. That's, kind of a
right,
quick off the cuff, but no one is going to tell a 50 cal gun mount operator that's how you translate that in the civilian world.
right,
Um, but one of the things, part of, like, I was a crane operator, and so telling people, hey, I can operate, a 25,000 pound rated crane and move, ships and be responsible for the life and safety of of 12 people that are helping move this equipment, hey, that tells me that I can run a team of 12 people and make sure they don't die at the same time. So, there's a
Right.
lot of ways that you can translate that, but they didn't tell me that when I went through my TAP class.
Right. Well,
And
they don't. They also don't teach you how to interview and how to translate
oh
your
no,
experiences.
no, not at
The
all.
interview
No,
process it's difficult.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I see it on LinkedIn all the time. I see people, posting that they're, transitioning and they would like help. And granted, there's a lot of people out there. One of the people that I've seen on LinkedIn, her name is Natalie Oliviero, and she's done a lot, with getting veterans taken care of, and but not a lot of people know about her. I wish I would have known about the help that she does for veterans in terms of reviewing their resumes and using her professional network to get people connected across the country. I mean,
Right.
for me, it was sheer luck that a gentleman was starting a business and he needed someone to help pretty much build an office and then be a salesman. And so this gentleman took me with no sales experience whatsoever and turned me into a salesman. And I don't think I'll ever leave the sales industry because of that. Um, but I didn't have anyone showing me how or showing me how to land a job. Otherwise, I probably would have come home. I would have collected unemployment and I would have gone to community college and, spent the next 4 years just kind of farting around doing nothing.
Right.
So, so I mean, that's one thing.
I did that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, like one thing I would, I would say probably one of the hardest things for me, like when I got out, was even though I had a job waiting for me, finding people that I could communicate with. That was hard.
What's up, people?
What's up, you sexy beast? We got Ryan with us now.
Oh, I just stirred up a fucking hornet's
Sweet.
nest.
What'd you stir up, Ryan?
Oh, I just posted it. Feel free to check it out whenever.
Was this Mr. Policeman?
Yeah.
Oh boy. All
Yeah.
right. While I'm checking that out, Ryan, tell us what was your
Somebody
biggest
read it.
struggle? You want me to read it?
Yeah,
Oh
Nah.
I
Jesus!
can't. Well, I'm
Oh
driving,
my
so I can't
God,
read it.
Ryan, that's a
No.
freaking novel.
No, don't read it right
Okay,
now.
I'll read it later.
Don't read it. Yeah. Yeah, don't read it right now.
Yeah. All right. So Ryan, we're talking about kind of like hurdles that we had when we got out of the military. So, what was one of the biggest culture shocks that you experienced when you got out of the army?
Well, for one, I was dumb as fuck. um,
All right, I'm not going to knock that one out of the park. Carry on.
no, I think my biggest thing was just being generally unprepared for really anything. Um, when you're in the military, like, yeah, there's a lot of hard shit. And depending on your job, it gets exponentially harder with the environment that you're in. But I wasn't prepared for anything in civilian life, like fucking taxes. Like, I used to go to the finance office and they would just pull up my fucking LES. And and
Right.
and like 10 minutes later, they're like, "Oh, bro, you got like $4,000 back or $3,000 or however much." I'm like, "All right, word." Fucking grocery shopping and I had to pay sales tax. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Right.
That
Yeah.
shit said it was 99 cents. That is not 99 cents.
Yeah. You're telling me I got to pay $1.07? Like, I may only be a high school graduate, but that math doesn't equal right.
Like employment. I didn't know what a fucking resume was. I didn't own a suit. I had done one job interview in my life, and that was when I was 14. And I worked at Dairy Queen for the summer. But, just like all this stuff that civilians do on a regular basis, and it's just like part of their routine. And I had to learn how to interview. I didn't have a suit because I always had class A's. Like I always
Right.
had a dress uniform, so I would wear that in lieu of a suit. I had to figure out what the fuck is a resume? What am I supposed to put on this shit? I blew shit up for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, okay, just stuff like even what is it? Getting the registration and stuff for your vehicle. Like, what did I do? I went to the main gate
Yeah.
and gave them my ID card, and they like printed shit off and told me to put it on my car. So
Yeah.
like all these things that you have to do to first off establish yourself in the civilian world, and then all the things you have to do to maintain yourself in the civilian world. Like I didn't know what it was like to work around civilians. I got a job, what was it, probably like a month after I got out. I was at a clothing retail store. I used to shop there all the time. I already knew the store, so me and the assistant manager were cool. She's like, yeah, you just got out, apply here. I was like, all right, cool. Went, did the application, came back. Manager's like, when can you start? And me, being the asshole that I am, I can start right fucking now. But he's like, awesome. And I'm like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
So I did. And then, so many issues just because the military, it's more complicated than it has to be, but it's also really simple. Go here at this time, wear this, do this, go home. Like that's it. Military is probably the easiest job anybody can have because there's always somebody to tell you what to do, when to do it, where to do it, and how to do it. And you always know you always know what lane you're in. There's a hierarchy, and everybody knows where they sit in that hierarchy, and that does not exist in the civilian world. Like, it might exist a little bit, but overall, it's almost non-existent. So you get out and you're used to, I have to listen to this person. I don't have to listen to this person, this, that, and the other. And even the way that you talk to people that you work with, most of the guys that came into the store, they were all military. So I talked to them just as I would talk to any of my guys. And my manager's always like, dude, you can't talk to customers like that. And I'm like, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
It was complete and total unpreparedness about pretty much anything. Yeah, I didn't know how to function, dude. So I'm not even gonna lie. I spent like the first year or two out of the army. I spent like all of 2009 and most of 2010 a complete wreck of a person. I like couch surfed for a while, lived in a few different states. I was like, I lived in different apartments with different roommates because like I didn't know how to fucking pay rent, bitch. I lived in the barracks.
Right.
Like, I went to the DFAC. I lived in the barracks, and I went to the bar on the weekends and got shit faced and went home with a stripper. Like, that shit on the outside is completely different. And so, those first 2 years out, man, it was rough. And I was trying to take this opportunity to apologize to every single person that knew me back then. Because I was definitely not.
I had just met you, kind of.
Actually,
back
yeah,
then.
you did. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You
I was.
way. But you know what? We've both come a long way since then. So.
Yeah, I definitely was not living my best life back then, and I was just as much of an asshole back then as I am now, but I was a different kind of asshole. I was an asshole who didn't have his shit together. So, for anybody that knew my name at that point in my life, I do sincerely apologize.
So, if you were to just take an educated guess, how many people do you think that get out are dealing either with not even necessarily PTSD, but let's just say anger or depression or feeling absolutely lost at sea when they get out? How many people do you think feel that way?
Most of them. I think depression's a big thing. Feeling worthless and.
I mean, on the conservative side, I would have to say at least 50%. And that's being extremely conservative with that estimate,
Right.
just because the military teaches you to compartmentalize everything, and
Yeah.
like you literally just suck it up and drive on. And they teach that because in that environment you have to be able to do that if you're going to survive. But
Yeah.
nobody, absolutely nobody, teaches you how to deal with everything that you've sucked up.
Right.
You know, so like they don't teach you how to deal with emotions and everything. And I think that's why a lot of it sometimes it takes so long for things like depression and PTSD and stuff like that to fully manifest itself after people get out of service. Because while you're in, it's like having a bad back or like an injury or something. As long as you're moving, you're good. Like you don't
Yeah.
really feel it. But the minute you stop moving, you lay down or you sit down and then you go to get back up, like all that pain is right there front and center. And it's the same way with all the emotions and all that stuff. You're never taught how to deal with it or how to handle it or how to process it. So you get out and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm free. You burn your shit. You take your boots and you throw them up on the fucking telephone wires. And, you know, you drive off a post. You be like, fuck all y'all, I ain't coming back. And then 6 months down the road, you know, you're fat, you ain't PT'd for shit, you eat like crap, you barely have a decent job, and you have absolutely nothing, you have absolutely no idea how to handle your life. Because
Yeah.
at no point were you ever taught to handle your life.
Yeah, that's like, I think that's probably one of the, it, from what I've seen, the longer that someone, from the day you get out, the longer that you go without employment or continuing education, the steeper the decline of overall well-being is.
Oh, most definitely. And I can personally attest to that. Like I said, I had a job
And
when I got out, but that was, I think I was there for just under 3 months. And then I went, a couple years without having a legitimate job. And then I got another, bullshit minimum wage retail thing for another couple months, and I fucked that one up. And then I finally went back to school, and it wasn't until I went to school and I had the structure and the organization and the direction that I'd been missing for all those years. I went to school and I found, you get used to that structure and the organization and somebody giving you a list of things that you need to do. And if you don't do it, then you're fucked up.
yeah,
And so I went back to school and found all that shit and ended up getting involved, which I had absolutely no intention of doing. But they assumed that I was mature and intelligent and responsible enough to handle this shit. And I was like, damn, fuck, I don't know how to do this. So I just had to pretend to be mature and intelligent and responsible until I figured it out.
do you think that because I'm trying to figure out how best to pose this question. Do you think that it would be beneficial as a whole if, when veterans got out, they went and got involved in politics or into service organizations like the Elks or the Moose or the Oddfellows or Kiwanis or Exchange Club? Do you think, what route would you recommend someone that's just getting out? Let's say they did their 4 years, they're 22 years old. What would you recommend to them to go and do?
Not politics. Definitely, absolutely, under no circumstances should anybody who is just getting out get involved in politics.
How come?
Because politics is a whole other beast. Like, you want to talk about people not knowing what lane they're in? Like, you want to, politics is... And the funny thing is, I've worked in politics for the last, I don't know, 4 years now. And
Yeah, you've been doing it for a while.
I'm kind of good at what I do. People listen to me, which is weird. Like, they think I know what I'm doing, and I guess I do. But goddamn, I hated politics. I never ever got involved in politics, and in fact, I still hate politics because of all the reasons that I hate it in the first place. But it's hard enough going from it's cutthroat, like it really is. It's really hard to find people that you can trust. So when you're coming out of an environment where more or less you might not trust them with your wife or your girlfriend, but you'll trust these motherfuckers with your life. You'll trust them with your money, you'll trust them with your stuff. um, when you're coming out of an environment that is essentially built on trust and organization and structure and people knowing where the fuck they're supposed to be,
Yeah.
going into an environment where just about everybody is out for themselves. Everybody is out to make a name for themselves and to be noticed. And so everything they do, including befriending you, is geared towards what can I get from you? What can you do for me? That I would not suggest that or wish that on anybody. I think that the last 6 months of anybody's military service should be a steady transition into civilian life. Um, you know, out of all the options, I think they should go to school. Um, it's almost impossible to find a school that doesn't have a student veterans program of some sort nowadays. There weren't a
Yeah.
whole lot when I went back to school,
Hmm.
but
Right,
this
can be
is
the
years
community
later.
college. Yeah, the community college that I went to, they had one veterans representative, and they're like, "Yeah, it's been a few years since I've helped someone process a GI Bill,"
Yeah,
and I'm like,
I believe
I'm
that.
like, but your full-time position is the veterans representative for admissions. Like, that's your job, and like, I mean, that it blows my mind that people like can have that job, but then they just fucking suck ass at
Well,
it.
I
Just
mean,
blows my mind.
it depends. It depends on where the school is located. It depends on the veterans population in the area. It depends on the veterans resources there. It depends on the state. Like that depends on a whole lot of fucking things. I lucked out when I went back to school. My school was one of the top military friendly colleges, not just in the state. Well, it was the top in the state, but not just that, but in the country. Like it was like one of the top 25 military friendly colleges in the country. And it was a huge military area on the east coast of Virginia. So everything they had for us there was geared towards success.
Right.
And I know other places in the same state where the veteran population is like 20, and out of those 20, like 18 of them are old Vietnam guys who ain't gonna go back to school, and
Yeah.
like one is maybe Gulf War, and there's one current conflict veteran. So like it depends on so many different things. But like I said, things have gotten a lot better nationwide in terms of veterans resources and schools, namely because schools want that VA money. So like if they want that money, they got to be on their shit.
Yeah.
But I definitely would suggest politics after a full transition period, after be at least being in school for a year or two. It's not something that I would just suggest anybody just dive into at all whatsoever under no circumstances.
Yeah. I have to say, I started going to college when I got out of the military.
I mean,
And I was working at the same time too. And I think college is a good thing, but at the same time, I think one of the struggles that a lot of veterans have, especially when they go to, at least in California, almost every CSU in California leans so far to the left that they're about to capsize. And it doesn't matter if it's a community college or a California State College, um, Like there was this lady, this was 5 years ago. I tell you, if I would have been in this woman's class, there is a good goddamn chance that I would have been on the news for one of two reasons. Either assault or arson, because I would have burned her fucking class down. And so, and she's a teacher, and her name is Jody Reeves Meyer. I don't think she's a teacher there anymore. I pray to God she's not, because like she is the biggest thief of oxygen I could ever come across in my entire life. So, and she posted this on her Facebook. She said there are reasons recruiters draw heavily from undereducated populations. Two of them being they are often desperate and that uninformed folks ask fewer questions. Students with poor academic performance are almost universally encouraged to go into the military, and Lord knows their skills do not improve while in the service. She then goes and says, um, uh, let's see,
I mean, some of that isn't necessarily inaccurate, though.
no, but here's the thing that killed me. She said in an interview, Reeves said she stands by her post, adding that military personnel are being ill-served in preparing for civilian life. She's right. However, she then goes on and says, I can't show specific student work, but if I were able to do that, which I would not because it would violate their privacy, clearly you would be able to see that these are people struggling with academic skills. And she says that military guys are more inclined to be in a large pool of people who are inclined to rape and sexual violence.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
And I'm like,
My
what
half
the-
black ass ain't never raped fucking nobody.
and well, but she goes on and says that the veterans that she's had in her classes habitually show up late, and I'm like, bitch, you are bald faced fucking lying about that, because I have yet to meet a veteran that has served, that got an honorable discharge, that's entitled to their GI Bill benefits, that are going to show up late and miss, cashing in on the 14, 15, 16, 1800 bucks a month that they get from the GI Bill or the post 9/11 GI Bill. There ain't no snowball's chance in hell that they're gonna show up late to something like that.
I mean, I worked in admissions, and I was, vice president. Well, fuck. Let's see, president of Student Veterans Association, student senator, speaker of the Senate, vice president, and president of the Student Government Association. So I saw, like, they would automatically just send, like, student veterans to me. Like, I just became the de facto guy, and then I worked in the admissions office. So, like, I definitely saw a lot of guys come through there and just fuck their shit up again because of, they were unprepared. Most of them were guys that had been out of the military for, at least 2 or 3 years. So they had been, they'd fallen prey to the attitudes that a lot of civilians have about shit. And then they decided to go to school for the GI Bill, not for their education. So, like, there's a big difference. Some of these people go to, and for anybody listening, I say guys, I mean guys and girls. I'm not being whatever the fucking stupid ass word is. I mean fucking everybody. I mean fucking everybody. Like, if you were in the line and you wore the same fucking uniform, you were one of my guys. So, I saw, half these guys, not half, but some of these guys would come in just for the GI Bill, just for the fucking money. Just like some of the students would come in and get these student loans just so they could get a fucking student loan refund back. And then, you wouldn't see them for half the semester. They get that refund check back, and then you don't see them for the rest, like half the semester, until that money runs out and they actually have to show up to class. The other part of them, they came, they wanted to get an education. They wanted to, diversify their lives. They wanted to branch out into new things and stuff like that, and take advantage of the GI Bill. So it's definitely people in all categories. And like I said, I went to school in a pretty diverse area. So we saw a good share of each individual group. But, the first part of what you read, some of that's not entirely inaccurate. Like, a lot of vets we go to school at least 10 years later than everybody else in the fucking classroom. So
Yeah.
yes, we are kind of lacking in the academic sense because, these 18 and 19-year-olds, they just graduated high school, maybe took a year off, fucked around or whatever, and then went to college.
Yeah.
We come in, we haven't been inside a fucking legit classroom in like 10 years. And I don't count, being PowerPointed to death as being in a classroom.
No, that does not count.
So like
That's cruel and unusual punishment is what it counts as.
Yeah, so like we're at least 8 to 10 years older than everybody else. We haven't been to a legitimate school academic environment in at least 8 to 10 years. So yeah, we are lacking in some areas. Even more so if you didn't have a very strong base to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, depending on who tells you, I was either fortunate or I was either blessed or cursed. My family is huge on education. Hell, my mom, my sister, and my grandmother are all teachers. So like my family is huge on education. My grandmother went back to school in her 70s to get a PhD because she was bored, and then she became a professor. And my mom got a master's. Would have got her a PhD, but she got sick. My dad got his master's. My older sister has her master's. So like education is huge in my family. So there was no way in hell I was going to just like skate by through high school. Like,
right.
If I come home with a B, my parents are disappointed. They're like, you could have done better. And I'm like, I could have, I just didn't feel like it. Like I come home with a C and the world's about to end, So when I graduated high school, I had almost all of my classes were all AP honors advanced classes. So I had a very, very strong education when I went into the military. And it helps not being stupid because that stays with you. But unfortunately, a lot of guys that go in, they don't have a strong educational background.
Right.
So,
they stay stupid.
I mean, when I say stupid, I mean, when I say stupid, I don't mean like uneducated. I just mean prone to being a fucking dumbass.
Yeah.
But, and then again, on the flip side, I know, and I should have done this. I know a lot of people who, while we were deployed, they started doing all these college courses online. And, they got their degrees while they were in. If I'd have been smart, and this is where I was stupid, if I'd have been smart, I would have done that while I was in. So I had a degree when I got out.
And then you could have done underwater basket weaving and get paid for it.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. So, there were definitely some things that I didn't take advantage of. And that factors into why I was so unprepared when I got out. I mean, education is one of those things, like you can't really just like pick it up and put it down at random. 75% of people who drop out of college never go back.
Right.
So, it was amazing when I worked in admissions because several times, over the couple of years I worked there, I would see people 65 and over haven't been to school in 20, 30, sometimes 40 years, and they're coming back now.
Yeah.
And they face a whole lot of struggles because the world was completely different than the last time they were in school. They still used fucking slide rules.
Yeah. Typewriters.
So, 75% of people who drop out of school never go back.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, being so hard on education as she is, she would always remind me of that, like to the point where even after I graduated and I was like, I just don't feel like going to school anymore. I'll go back in a couple years. And my grandmother kept hammering that shit in. And so I was like, okay, grandma, damn, I'll take some of these free online classes. The classes themselves are free, but you pay somewhere between $30 and $60 and you get the certificate for it. If you don't get the certificate, the class doesn't count.
Right.
But like EDX courses, I have, I'm taking I don't know, 6 or 7 of those.
What are those, Ryan?
What?
The EDX courses.
It's a online site where, and I mean schools from all over the world, and I don't mean like bullshit schools like
Not University of Phoenix.
well, actually, University of Phoenix is pretty good. My grandmother taught there, but
I could bitch and moan about University of Phoenix, but
I mean, like decent schools from all over the world. They put the course material online, and it's self-paced. Some of them are just because of the way that they have it structured. Some of them, you do need to complete them in a certain time. I don't do those, but all the ones that I do, like you have a year from the time you sign up to just start the class. So you could sign up for it and then not do shit for a year. And then on the 364th day, start the class, and then you do the class. And then like I said, somewhere between 30 and $60, and you get credit for that class.
Is it just edx.org?
Oh, shit. Let me tell you.
There's a couple of them. So there's also an Allison courses that Europe has. That does free courses as well.
Yeah, it's edx.org. Let's see if I can do this.
Because, like, for me, so I got out in 04. And I took a year off, and then I started going to school. And, I wanted to get a marketing degree, a sales and marketing degree. And I'm in the class, and Facebook and Twitter are starting to blow up. And I take an online marketing class. And part of the syllabus was to go and set up a MySpace profile.
Oh shit!
And
awesome.
so I comment in the thread for University of Phoenix. I said, Professor, in my personal humble opinion, because this is kind of what I do as a side hustle right now. MySpace is pretty much a spot for failed musicians and pedophiles, and they kind of end up being like the same person. And the teacher didn't like my commentary about MySpace. And so, as a test, I'm like, okay, you know what? I still have my old MySpace profile. I'm going to do a post on there. I'm going to see what kind of analytics I can get from there. And I'm also going to do a post on Facebook. I'm going to do a post on Twitter. And I'm going to see over the span of a weekend what kind of reach I can have. And MySpace, I got 7 reactions. And on Facebook, I got 11 or 12. But Twitter, I mean, over the span of a weekend, I had something like 3,800 impressions. And I told the teacher, so that's when I effectively stopped going to University of Phoenix, because, I mean, just the curriculum was just horrendous, absolutely horrendous.
Well, I mean, in 2004, MySpace didn't really decline until probably 05. Well,
no, this course, I stopped going to University of Phoenix in 2009.
Oh, MySpace was definitely way declined by then.
Yeah, that's Facebook, when I quit going to college online for University of Phoenix.
And by that time, Facebook had eclipsed MySpace, and Twitter had almost eclipsed Facebook by then. That was a bad call to use that platform, because Twitter is
I asked
specifically geared. Do what?
I asked a career counselor for a refund for the course, because I'm like, you're teaching outdated shit. It would be as if I went and took a course that was taught in the 1900s, and you're trying to charge me $2,000 for tuition for this course that literally the second that you teach it is completely outdated and useless. It was outdated and useless 2 years ago, and they told me no. In which case, I told the career counselor, "Fuck off," and disenroll me from everything. I'm done.
I mean, having sat in college board meetings and several task forces and committees and boards and all that shit, I'll be the first to tell you it takes an entire institution at least. Well, back then, maybe it's gotten better now, but when I was in school, it would take an institution like that at least 2 to 3 years on the quick side for fast moving innovations to get high enough to where the school will make that kind of change. the students, just phrasing, the students, we're on the ground. Like, we see this shit happening. We're like, yo, we need to get on this. This is what we need to do. This is why we need it, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, the students are trying to make that change. The administration is just now getting used to the last batch of changes they made.
Yeah.
So at that time, schools are a lot better now, because absolutely nobody in that particular realm of academics foresaw the explosion that would become social media.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, MySpace was big enough, and it took a little bit for MySpace to do that. And the things you could do with MySpace were very limited. And at the time, we thought that was the shit.
Well, how many people learned HTML because of MySpace?
Oh, dude, I was talking about that with somebody the other day. We were like 13, 14 coding entire web pages.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, MySpace had its merit, but, I think anything as a salesman, anything that I want to learn to hone my craft as a salesman, I can get from the public library, or I can get it from YouTube.
Well, see, that is entirely dependent on the person. I am the same way. I have never taken a mechanics course. I have never, been ASE certified or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, I can sit there and tear down a fucking engine. I can't do a transmission. I just refuse to fuck with that.
Right.
I refuse to fuck with that. But everything I learned, my grandpa taught me the basics, and everything else I learned, fucking YouTube videos, bro. Like, I learned how to work on my engine on my old pickup from having my phone on the fucking driveway right next to me playing YouTube videos, and I'm following along.
Mm-hmm.
So that is entirely dependent on the person. So the people who it's called an internal locus of motivation. That means you are self-motivated, self-driven. You don't need an external source of motivation to propel you to do whatever it is you want to do. People who have an internal locus of motivation are severely outnumbered by people who are externally motivated.
How many people that are getting out of the military, though, are internally motivated?
Not a lot.
You think?
I mean, on this podcast, all three of us are the exact same way. So the chances are that the statistics are higher, that we are more self-motivated.
Okay, but here's the thing. Psychologically, you attract people who are like you. You group yourselves according to your nature. So people, internally driven, motivated people, will more or less naturally find people who are also somewhat similar to them. That doesn't mean that the statistic is higher. That just means we're doing what we naturally do anyway. Think about the nature of being in the military. You don't really have to think a whole lot for yourself. You just do what you're told to do, when you're told to do it, and how you're told to do it. And the overwhelming majority of people that go into the military are like that. They are perfectly comfortable with having everything structured for them. So the people that are internally driven are more likely to get in, all kinds of trouble, because they don't follow the crowd. They don't simply sit there and accept the status quo. They want to see what else there is. And those are people that usually end up in some kind of trouble in the military, because they stepped outside of those boundaries. They stepped outside of the given parameters.
Well, that's why we got out of the military, because we would ask a question like, why are we doing it like this when we could probably do it like this in half the time and half the manpower? And then you got some dumbass who's been in the military for 38 years, who's still in E6, going, because that's how we've always done it.
Exactly. And I've heard that so many fucking times, and I hated hearing it. I'm like, but it's dumb. But think about it. Even the people who, and it's not to say anything negative or bad about how they handle their difficulties, but the people who simply resort to isolating themselves, and they don't seek brotherhood or companionship or fellowship or assistance anywhere outside of their immediate environment. Those are not the people that have, and that internally motivate themselves. Those are the people that want to be shown where the things are. So, you got people who get out and they have a hard time, and they go out and they look for help. They look for things. They search actively for something to help make sense of their world.
Yeah.
And then you have people that simply resort to going to the bar every night and cheating on their wife, and then they sit there and bitch about their life. And you're
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
okay, but what are you doing though? Like, you've been bitching for the last 10 years about the exact same things. What have you done to change that situation? And
yeah, but
like I
those are
said,
the apathy-laden people that will always look for something to bitch about instead of do something. Like,
but
I
see,
have no,
it's
I have no doubt that all three of us, when we were in the military, it just like the Navy. They say the Navy stands for never again volunteer yourself. But unfortunately, you have sadistic dumb fucks like the three of us, where we see something wrong, and instead of just walking right past it, we actually try and do something about it.
yeah.
And normally one or two things happens. One is we're told, "Hey, that's great that you are showing initiative and you want to take care of this. Go take that care of that after normal working hours." I'm like, "Whoa,
Well,
whoa, 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 whoa. Like, hold on. I'm like trying to like I see a situation and I'm trying to take initiative and get it fixed because it's either creating a safety hazard or something. Almost anything in the military, if something is fucked up, it inherently comes with a safety danger attached to it, whether it be
well,
machinery or equipment. Or we get told by someone who this particular incident is under their purview, and we're told, stay in your lane and don't worry about it.
that's a perfect example, though. Think of how many people, after we all learned within the first probably month of being in, active duty, real world military, think of all the people who would take it upon themselves to try to do something, as opposed to the number of people who would simply walk by and simply ignore it. Which number was higher?
Well, the people that walked by and ignored it because they eventually
Okay.
got beat down so many times by being told to
But
stay in their lane, or we're told, hey, after normal working hours, because you're that gung ho moto soldier, sailor, I'm going to punish you and take away your free time so you can take care of this problem.
I mean, that's one aspect of it, yeah. But overall, the number of people who will walk by something and ignore it versus the number of people who will stop, look at it, and formulate a plan to do something about it, those people are severely outnumbered by the ones that would just walk by. Why? Because the ones that walk by simply assume that there is a structure or a method in place to take care of it. They
Mm-hmm.
have no desire, no internal motivation to do something about it. Oh, somebody else probably saw it, so they're probably already on it. Or the next person that comes along will probably do something about it. It's not necessarily laziness or apathy. It just depends on how you're motivated.
Yeah.
Because even the people who are internally motivated and get told do it after working hours and they get beat down or whatever, they still manifest that internal motivation in other ways. Literally every single one of the guys in all of your spec ops communities, those are all internally motivated guys.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that are like, find a way. I'm going to find a way. So somebody a long time ago got smart and was like, let's take all these motherfuckers because they're not going to fit in within the normal parameters of line units. Let's take them and put them into a separate unit where they can uh, manifest their talents in a useful manner.
Yeah. But
So,
then you add insult to injury, though. So we'll take the scenario of the person that goes in their extra time, their spare time, who's truly motivated, and they unfuck whatever this scenario is. And then we all know what happens next. someone of a higher pay grade then co-signs on it and takes all the credit. And when we try, and for us, it's like, sure, would we like the credit? Yeah, because we're the ones that spoke up, said something, did something. But then when it comes time for evals, who's the person that gets the credit for it? Oh, the person that was loud and boisterous, and we're over here getting the short end of the stick when we're the ones that did the fucking work. So,
I mean, yeah, that's something that happens, but that's not the overarching explanation for all of it. Someone who is internally motivated will always manifest that motivation.
yeah,
You have people that can have spurts of internal motivation. Sometimes they are, they're balls to the wall and they go out and they do this. They go out and do the thing. And then most other times they just sit back and let somebody else do it. Someone who legitimately is internally motivated, they will always manifest it some other way.
yeah,
Because that internal motivation will tell them they need to find a way around the bullshit.
yeah.
I mean, it's not just in the military. Like that shit happens in the fucking civilian world all the time.
Yeah.
You have a junior fucking staffer who has a great idea and they take it up like they're supposed to. And, the CEO sees the results and the middle manager takes the credit. So like that shit happens all the time. But again, that person who is internally motivated, it might happen once, it might happen twice, but it won't happen a third time. Because that person that is internally motivated is going to make sure that they manifest whatever it is they're doing in such a way so as not to be able to be hijacked by somebody else.
And what was the term you used, Ryan, for the internally motivated?
Internal locus of motivation.
So, okay, so question real quick and then kind of wrap us up for the night. So, how, if let's say there's a recruiter in the civilian world, what is the best way for them to find the people getting out of the military that have that internal motivation to be the best that they can be? Not for anyone else, just because that's what they are driven to do. They can't live by being mediocre. They can't live by just saying it's okay. They want to be the best, and if they have to ask a million resources or spend hours on their own, they have to inherently be the best. It's what drives them. How can recruiters find those people?
Honestly, those people are usually the ones that put themselves in the path of the recruiters. Those are the people that find out, those are the ones that ask the right questions. What do I want to do? How do I need to get there? What do I need to get there? And who can help me get there?
Yeah.
So they start with those questions and they find the answers to those questions as they go along. So, they'll put themselves in the path to be seen. They will, what's the word I'm looking for? They will distinguish themselves in such a manner as to make it impossible to be ignored. They'll
I will agree.
They'll show up one day.
Jobs, but not necessarily recruiters. I do that at every job interview I've gone to, and I've never been turned down, and I've never been contacted by a recruiter that I haven't hung up on.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So I would agree with that in terms of like job interviews, but not recruiters. I've done that going into an interview, and I've never been turned down for a job because of it. I've gone to what they want. This is how I know I'm going to get there. This is how I know I'm going to be successful for you and get you what goals you're trying to reach as a company. I've never gotten that from a recruiter. I've hung up on every recruiter I've talked to. Because recruiters don't have the best intention for the people. They don't care who they recruit. All they care is if they fill spots.
I think that depends on if it's an agency recruiter versus a recruiter that is hiring specifically for the company they work for.
Yeah, there's a big difference between in-house recruiters and agency recruiters. Like,
yeah,
and you're you're not wrong in that regard. Like, agency recruiters just want somebody, they just want a body. It's like the fucking NCO that walks up to the platoon and they're like, I need 4 bodies. I don't care who, I just need 4 bodies. And that's agency recruiters.
Doing in-house recruiting, I did that with a job before, and all we had to do was fill seats. We just had to make sure we weren't getting the bottom of the barrel.
I mean, it depends on the parameters of what the recruiter is looking for.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a one and done. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I think the internally motivated person is going to go to a job they know they want, they know they're going to be successful at, and they're going to sell that. I don't think a recruiter is going to do that for them.
I mean, again, it depends on the nature of the company, what the company's mission is, what they're looking for, the recruiter themselves. Like, there's a few things that go into it, but you're absolutely right about that. Like I said, the person that's internally motivated, they'll put themselves in the path. They'll put themselves in the position to get what they want.
They're pretty much going to walk up to the recruiter's desk with a resume in hand and go, you'd be an idiot not to hire me.
Yeah.
Right. So the person who does that, they're not going to go to the recruiter who just wants bodies. So think of a job fair. They're not going to go to the booth with the long line and the quick hire. They're not going to go to that booth that's just hiring everybody that shows up right then and there because they need bodies. Yeah. They're going to research the people, the companies, the vendors, the businesses that are at the job fair. They're going to do a couple rounds and listen to some of the conversations that they're having. They're going to prepare themselves mentally, and then they're going to go back around and have a few of their own conversations, and they're going to judge the recruiters there based off of their presentation. And then they're going to do another round once they've narrowed it down a couple times.
Yeah, they're going to aim small, miss small kind of approach.
Right. So they're going to go to the one that they know gives them the highest likelihood of the success that they want. And then they'll present themselves fully. This is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. This is where I've been. This is where I've done. And this is why I would be a good addition to your company.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, in 90 seconds, Ali, what advice would you give to someone when they're getting out? So pretty much we'll say they've got 60 days before they get out. What do they need to do during that 60 days, and what do they need to do in the following 60 days once they get out?
I think they need to hire somebody to help them out with their resume and with interviewing. They need to be able to interview role play. They have to be able to get the confidence in speaking to somebody. They have to know what they want to do. I think the biggest part for them is figuring out what they can take from the military and use in the civilian world. And sometimes you just have to hire somebody to wordplay it for you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to this?
Okay, and within 60 days after they've gotten out, what would you suggest they do?
After that, I would probably suggest writing down a budget, everything that they know they have to pay for, everything that is a necessity in life, and kind of where they're going to get it from. Make it a routine. Make it something that you have to do every day.
Okay. All right, Ryan, your 2 cents?
Oh, she definitely hit it on the head with routine. I listen to a lot of guys, Gary Vee, Simon Sinek, Eric Wilson, a lot of these guys, John C. Maxwell. I have their books. I read what they write. I listen to their interviews. I listen to their podcasts. And one of the recurring themes that always comes up is make your shit a routine. Mm-hmm. Get up in the morning, do this, and this. Like, start your day off this way. At work, do this, and this, to prepare yourself for the next day, the night before, do that. Like, you have to make it a routine. Making it a routine becomes practice. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yes.
So, that routine is your practice. And when you have that routine down, then you're ready to go and play the game. Just be prepared, write out a list of questions first for yourself and then for the other people once you've answered those questions for yourself. What do I want? Where do I want to go? How do I need to get there? What do I need to get there? Who can help me get there? Once you've been able to answer those questions for yourself, then you start identifying people that can answer those questions. So, 60 days before you get out, if you're not already in school, you need to be enrolled in school.
Yeah.
Maybe not starting before you get out, but you have to be able to start soon after you get out so you can transition right into that particular routine. 60 days after you get out, you need to, what's the word I'm looking for? You need to revisit everything you've done in the last 120 days.
Yeah.
Did I, have a checklist and write it down? Because these people also say they did the same thing. Write
Have a
it down.
checklist.
Don't
Write it
don't
down.
don't type it. Don't fucking make it a note in your phone or whatever. Physically write it down on a sticky note or in a notebook and put that shit somewhere you can see it. I use my bathroom mirror or the front door because those two things I see 90 billion times a day. So make a checklist, check things off, put a date on it. You can say, I want to do that, and that's a dream. But once you write it down and you put a date on it, then it becomes a goal.
Yeah.
So make a list, put a date for each item that you're going to accomplish it by, write that shit down, put it somewhere, you're going to see it every day. Once you've completed something, you check it off, and then you revisit that shit, and then you keep doing that. That becomes your routine. That routine becomes your success.
Yeah. I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. Everything you guys said. The a couple things I would probably add in more for the philanthropic needs of people is find an organization that you align with or identify with, whether it be like for me, it was joining the Elks, and it was also getting involved with the local soccer league by volunteering and giving my time. It was as if I was still serving, and it was a lot more micro because it was a community instead of a macro like a whole country. Serving others got me that same sense of satisfaction that I got from the military, and then being part of the Elks, I could, you see in every, I think it's the same, probably almost any kind of, paternal or fraternal organization, they all have the same sign. Uh, what you see here, what you hear here, stays here when you leave here. And hopefully, if you had a cool unit that you served with, it acted the same way. Um, so that would be it. And find either a mentor or an accountability partner.
Yes.
Find someone
Yes.
that will, if you're going into a trade, find someone to sponsor you. If you're going into a tech field, find someone. It could be someone that works in the same company, it could be someone that works in a different company, but find someone that has already walked the path that you're starting and can
Yes.
give you warnings for the pitfalls. I mean, I wish that the first 4 years of sales that I would have found Zig Ziglar. I wish that I would have found
Right?
Gary V. I wish that I would have found, these people that had 40, 50 years worth of sales experience and sales psychology that went with the training. Because when I found Zig Ziglar, he had already passed away. And I'm pissed because I would have paid a mint to go to one of his trainings. But now it's a matter of finding other people that are much higher in the sales hierarchy than I am or have been, and learning from them and pinging them often and saying, hey, and having the putting my ego aside and coming to them and saying, here are the objections that I've faced today or this week. What did you do when these happened? Instead of being stubborn and trying to figure it out on my own, I'm actually taking notes. I mean, I have a notepad that I have on my desk every day. And every time I come across an objection that I've never heard before, I write it down and I go to my mentor. So that would be it. And you can find those people, find your local veteran service office and get registered with them immediately. Take a copy of your DD214 member 4, have them make a copy of it and save it, whether it be digitally or a file. Find your local VSO. Get enrolled in every kind of veteran organization that you can, whether you end up using it today, tomorrow, or 10 years down the road. Get enrolled with all of those organizations.
You said something that I just want to touch on real quick. You said you would have paid them a mint in order to benefit from their experience.
Mhm.
So what that's called is investing in yourself. When you pay for a conference, when you pay for the ticket to the conference, when
Yes.
I don't know if you drive or if you fly, you pay for the gas money or the plane ticket, you pay for the hotel room, you go to this conference, you take time out of your normal life to listen to these people impart wisdom upon you. That's called investing in yourself. Anything that you do that teaches you or improves you, that's called investing in yourself. And that's what a lot of people fail to do. A lot
Yeah.
of people, even people that are internally motivated, a lot of people have this bad habit of simply thinking that how they are, when they are, where they are is enough. And they don't, they do the right things, they go to the right places, they ask the right questions, but they miss one of the key ingredients, which is investing in yourself. And I don't care if it's getting a haircut or buying a suit or, shaving, trimming your beard or whatever. Like all of these things are part of investing in yourself. So one of the things that you need to do if you plan to succeed, whether it's getting out of the military, going into the military, going into a civilian job for it, whatever, you have to invest in yourself. And the more you're willing to invest in yourself, the more other people are willing to invest in you. Because when they look at you and they see your presentation, your name, your presentation, that's your brand. Every company, every organization has a brand. And if you look at it and it looks like a fucking 5-year-old drew it, you're not going to give a fuck about that brand. But when you see a commercial or a video or an ad and you can tell that they put time, work, and money into it, you see that they've invested in themselves, and that makes you want to go to them. And that's the same thing, vice versa. When people, when companies, businesses, organizations, jobs, whatever, when they see that that you have and are willing to invest in yourself, they will be more likely to invest in you as well.
Yeah.
So people have to get that into their heads. I don't care where you are in your life, where you're coming from, where you're going to. You have to invest in yourself. Like we'll invest in cars, entertainment, and booze, and weed, and clothes, and all these things that are consumable. But we don't stop to think to take that money and that time and put it towards ourselves.
Yeah.
So, save, $50 a week by not eating fast food for lunch or dinner for a week. Save a couple $100 by not going to the movies and, spending all this money at a bar or a club or whatever else it is you do. All these things that won't put anything back into you. Save some money for 1 month by
Yeah.
not doing this stuff. Go home, watch fucking Netflix, cook your food, and just chill. And then take that money and buy Simon. One of my favorite books is Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. It's like 14
Yes.
bucks. It's like 14
Such a
bucks
good book.
on. It's like 14 bucks on Google Play.
Yeah.
Like, yo, don't buy 3 packs of cigarettes and instead take that 15, 16 bucks and buy Leaders Eat Last on Google Play and read that shit.
Or
Fucking
go to the local library.
the last book I got from Gary Vee was like 12 bucks. So
Yeah.
like save some money for a couple days by not eating, going to fast food or whatever, and buy, one or two of Gary Vee's books.
Yeah.
If you have time and you have the money, go to one of these they have them all over the place all the time.
Yeah.
And these dudes are so unassuming and they're willing to help anybody that's willing to help themselves. I have seen fucking Gary Vee come off the fucking podium, off the fucking stage, and just sit on the edge of the stage and just fucking talk.
If he has me on one of his podcasts ever, I'm recording it and posting it here.
Facts. So like
Dude,
people have to be willing. People have to be willing to invest in themselves. They'll invest in fucking Starbucks. When you pay Starbucks $6 for a cup of coffee, you're investing in Starbucks. When you pay $500 for a pair of shoes or a fucking pair of headphones, you're investing in that company. When you pay Apple $1,300 for a phone or a computer, you're investing in Apple. What I'm saying to people, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Invest in yourself. Allow yourself the opportunity to see the success that you think about.
Yeah. Maybe we'll start compiling a list of books.
Oh, dude, I will fucking screenshot my goddamn Google Books account and show you my fucking library. That shit's. I try to get as many books. Like every sergeant major comes out with a list of recommended books like every year.
Yeah.
So I try to read as many of those as I can. I don't get through them all, but Mattis just came out with one, so I've been working on building up those. I've got sergeant major dailies. I've got so I can screenshot that shit.
Yeah. Well, we'll work on a list of books like that. We'll get them up on the fan page. So, all right. Well,
First and foremost, I would say Leaders Eat Last.
yeah, that was a really good book. And more butter bars and First Lieutenants need to read that, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, that was the first. That was the first one that was suggested to me because I asked
Yeah.
people. I'm like, "Yo, like, what do you suggest?" I told it was a guy back when I first got started in politics. I'm sorry if I keep going over, but when I first got started in politics, and I was talking to one of these guys who's been around for a while, Mike, and I was like, "Yo, I want to know as much as they know. Like, I want to know what they know. So, how do I do that?" And he gave me a list of 3 books, and Leaders Eat Last was one of those books on that list. And he was like, read this one, and this one. If you read those 3, you will know just as much, if not even more, paired with your previous experience. You will know just as much, if not more, than these people that you want to know just as much as.
Nice.
And I got those books that fucking week, and for the next like 2 months, I read those 3 books. So definitely suggest that.
All right, we'll post that on our fan page. So our fan page for those, I'll put it in the links in the description as well. Yeah. But our fan page on Facebook is Veterans Roundtable. It's facebook.com/Vets Roundtable. So go like it, share it, tell everyone about it. And we'll get that list and we'll kind of compile everyone that we've had on our chat and get everyone on there, so that we can just share it out and get everyone on the same reading list. So I know it's about dinner time for all of us. I'm hungry as a hostage, so
yeah, I gotta cook.
All right, man. Well, thank you, Allie. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back here next Monday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. You guys have a great week, and we'll get that list onto Facebook for everyone to take a look at real soon.
All right. Have a good week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
You too.
All right. Bye.